Creative Confidence by Tom Kelley and David Kelley. Introduction. A young girl, frail and terrified, is walking down a sterile hospital hallway. She's holding her parents' hands so tightly her knuckles are white. Her father is trying to be brave, whispering, "We've talked about this. You can do this," but the little girl can't stop the tears rolling down her cheeks. She's about to get an MRI scan. And standing in that same hallway is a man named Doug Dees. He's an engineer for General Electric, and the machine this little girl is so afraid of is his creation. He'd spent over 2 years designing it. He was proud of it. In fact, he was just telling a technician how his sleek, multi-million-dollar machine had been nominated for an International Design Award. But in that moment, seeing the sheer terror in that child's eyes, his pride vanished. It was replaced by a crushing sense of failure. He saw his machine not as a piece of brilliant technology, but as a monster. A big, scary machine that swallows children. He learned that day that hospitals routinely have to sedate up to 80% of their young patients just to get them through a scan. They're too scared to lie still. Doug could have just walked away. He could have told himself, "That's just the way it is," but he didn't. That moment changed him, and it set him on a journey that would not only transform the experience for millions of children, but would also reveal a powerful secret about human potential. A secret that lies dormant within every single one of us. Today, we're going to explore that secret. We're diving into the brilliant book Creative Confidence by brothers Tom and David Kelley, the minds behind the legendary innovation firm IDEO and Stanford University's renowned d.school. This isn't just a book about creativity in the way you might think. It's not about learning to paint or play an instrument. It's about something much deeper. It's a guide to unlocking a fundamental belief in your own ability to change the world around you, whether that world is your school project, your future company, or your own life. By the end of our time together, you will understand that creativity isn't some rare gift you're either born with or not. It's a muscle. And this book provides the workout plan to strengthen it. You will learn how to move from fear to courage, from a blank page to a breakthrough insight, and from planning to action. So, let's begin. Book summary. Most of us, at some point in our lives, have a moment where we decide we're just not the creative type. Maybe it happened in a third-grade art class. You're sitting at a table with a lump of clay, trying to make a horse. You're focused, you're trying your best. And then a classmate leans over and says, "That's terrible. That doesn't look anything like a horse." Your shoulders sink. You wad up the clay, throw it back in the bin, and something inside you just shuts down. That story actually happened to a friend of the author's named Brian. And from that day on, he never attempted a creative project again. We all have a version of that story. A creativity scar, as researcher Brené Brown calls it. It's a moment when we learn that being judged is painful, and that it's safer to just stick to what we're good at, to follow the rules, to color inside the lines. We start to believe in what the Kelley brothers call the creativity myth, the myth that creativity belongs only to the artists, the musicians, the designers in the corner office. The myth that people in serious professions, doctors, lawyers, engineers, are analytical, not creative. But the central message of this book is that this is a profound misunderstanding of what creativity is. Creativity isn't just about artistic expression. It is, at its core, about problem solving. It's about using your imagination to create something new in the world, whether that's a new product, a better way to run a meeting, or a more compassionate way to treat a patient. And the belief that you can do it, that you have what it takes to come up with new ideas and have the courage to try them out, is what the authors call creative confidence. This isn't just a feel-good idea. It's rooted in deep psychological principles. There was a legendary Stanford psychologist named Albert Bandura who studied phobias. He once worked with a woman who had been terrified of snakes her entire life. So terrified, she couldn't even go hiking. Bandura set out to cure her fear in just a few hours. How? Through a process he called guided mastery. He didn't just throw her in a room with a snake. He led her through a series of tiny, manageable steps. First, he just had her watch a man holding a snake through a one-way mirror. The woman was convinced the snake would wrap itself around the man's neck and choke him. But it didn't. It just dangled there, lazily. Then, he asked her to stand in the open doorway of the room with the snake. When she hesitated, he stood with her. Step by tiny step, he guided her closer. By the end of the session, she was in the room, touching the snake. And just like that, her lifelong phobia was gone. But here's the most fascinating part. When Bandura followed up with her months later, he discovered something amazing. Curing her snake phobia had changed her entire life. She'd taken up horseback riding. She'd become a fearless public speaker. She was exploring new possibilities at her job. By overcoming a fear she thought was permanent, she fundamentally altered her belief about what she was capable of. She had developed what Bandura called self-efficacy, the conviction that you can achieve what you set out to do. This is the very heart of creative confidence. It's about touching the snake. It's about proving to yourself, through a series of small, manageable successes, that the fears holding you back are not as powerful as you think. And the biggest snake in the room for most of us? The fear of failure. We live in a world that tells us failure is the worst thing that can happen. But the Kelley brothers argue this is a paradox. Citing research from Professor Dean Keith Simonton, they reveal that creative geniuses don't fail less than the rest of us. They fail more. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb on his first try. He had 1,000 unsuccessful attempts. But he didn't see them as failures. He saw them as learning. He famously said that the real measure of success is the number of experiments that can be crowded into 24 hours. The Wright brothers didn't succeed on their first flight. They had hundreds of failed trials at Kitty Hawk, a remote location they chose partly to avoid the media watching them crash. Innovation isn't about being right the first time. It's about being willing to experiment, to learn, and to iterate. It's about taking more shots at the goal. So, how do we get there? How do we move from a state of fear to a state of confident action? The authors provide a powerful, human-centered framework they call design thinking. And the best way to understand it is to return to the story of Doug Dietz, the engineer whose MRI machine terrified that little girl. After that painful encounter in the hospital hallway, Doug didn't just feel bad, he decided to do something. He took a workshop at Stanford's d.school, where he was introduced to a new way of solving problems. A way that starts not with technology, but with people. This is the first and most important step of design thinking: empathy. Instead of trying to design a better, faster, or cheaper MRI machine, Doug reframed the entire problem. He stopped asking, "How can I improve this technology?" and started asking, "How can I improve this child's experience?" This is a critical shift. Most businesses look at a problem through two lenses. Is it technically feasible? And is it economically viable? But design thinking adds a third, crucial circle to that Venn diagram. Is it desirable? Do people actually want or need this? To find what's desirable, you have to start with a deep understanding of human needs. So Doug went to a local daycare center. He didn't go with a clipboard and a survey. He just observed. He watched children play. He talked to child life specialists to understand what makes kids feel safe and what makes them scared. He was building empathy. This led him to the second phase: ideation and experimentation. Armed with these new insights, Doug realized he didn't need to redesign the multi-million-dollar machine at all. He just needed to redesign the experience around it. He gathered a small volunteer team and began to prototype. Prototyping isn't about building a perfect, finished product. It's about creating quick, rough, low-cost experiments to make an idea tangible so you can get feedback. Doug and his team created what they called the Adventure Series. They transformed the cold, intimidating MRI suite into a kid's adventure story. They didn't touch the complex technology inside the scanner. Instead, they applied colorful decals to the outside of the machine and all around the room. One MRI became a pirate ship. The round opening of the scanner was surrounded by a giant captain's wheel. The technician, now part of the story, would tell the child they were about to go on a voyage and had to lie perfectly still on the boat. Another MRI became a spaceship. Just before the machine made its loud, banging noises, the operator would tell the child to listen for the moment the craft shifts into hyperdrive. A terrifying sound was reframed into an exciting part of an adventure. This brings us to the final stage, implementation. The results were astonishing. The number of pediatric patients needing sedation dropped dramatically. Patient satisfaction scores went up by 90%. The hospital was happy because they could scan more patients each day. But for Doug, the greatest reward came when he saw a mother with her 6-year-old daughter who had just been scanned in the pirate ship. The little girl tugged on her mom's skirt and asked a question that brought tears to Doug's eyes. "Mommy, can we come back tomorrow?" Doug's story is a perfect illustration of creative confidence in action. He started with empathy, he reframed the problem, he experimented with low-cost prototypes, and he created something that didn't just solve a technical problem, it addressed a deep human need. This bias toward action is a recurring theme in the book. The authors tell the story of two shy, analytical graduate students at Stanford, Akshay Kothari and Ankit Gupta. They took a class called Launchpad, where the challenge was to start a real company from scratch in just 10 weeks. Daunted by the task, they decided to work on a newsreader app for the newly announced iPad. Instead of spending weeks in a library writing a business plan, they did something radical. They set up their office in a local coffee shop. Why? Because it was filled with their future customers. They started with the roughest of prototypes, just a series of post-it notes to simulate how the app would work. They would show it to a stranger, watch how they interacted with it, get feedback, and then immediately make changes. Ankit would code new software versions while Akshay did the user research. They made hundreds of small iterations every single day. Within 2 weeks, they went from people saying, "This is crap," to "Is this app preloaded on the iPad?" That app became Pulse News. It was so successful that Steve Jobs himself showed it off at an Apple conference. It was downloaded by over 20 million people, and the company they built in that coffee shop was eventually acquired by LinkedIn for $90 million. Akshay and Ankit didn't have a single stroke of genius. They had a do-something mindset. They minimized planning and maximized action. They weren't afraid to fail, because each failure was just a cheap, fast experiment that taught them something valuable. They embraced what author Eric Ries calls a minimum viable product, the least amount of effort needed to run an experiment and get feedback. This mindset is crucial for overcoming what the authors call the knowing-doing gap. This is the space between what we know we should do and what we actually do. It's a trap that even the biggest companies fall into. They tell the cautionary tale of Kodak. Kodak actually invented the first digital camera back in 1975. They knew the future was digital. But they were so attached to their successful film business, their glorious past, that they failed to act decisively. They were stuck in the knowing-doing gap, and one of America's most powerful brands lost its way. To bridge that gap, you have to start. Even if it's small. Best-selling author Anne Lamott tells a story about her 10-year-old brother, who was paralyzed the night before a big school report on birds was due. He was surrounded by books, close to tears, overwhelmed by the task. His father sat down beside him, put an arm around his shoulder, and said, "Bird by bird, buddy. Just take it bird by bird." That simple phrase, bird by bird, is a powerful reminder that any intimidating task can be broken down into manageable steps. The journey to creative confidence isn't one giant leap. It's an accumulation of small, courageous acts. This idea of taking small steps is especially important when it comes to finding your passion. The authors introduce a simple, powerful diagram, a seesaw with a heart on one side and a dollar sign on the other. It represents the constant tension in our lives between doing what we love and doing what pays the bills. So many people fall into what they call the looks good, feels bad trap. They take a job that impresses their parents or looks good on a resume, but it leaves them feeling empty. David Kelley himself experienced this. Right out of college, he took a prestigious engineering job at Boeing. On paper, it was a dream job. But in reality, he was miserable, lost in a room of 200 engineers, working on the lavatory-occupied sign for the 747. The job didn't play to his strengths, and he was deeply bored. He quit, choosing to follow his heart, a decision that eventually led to the creation of IDEO and the d.school. The book suggests that our relationship to our work can fall into one of three categories: a job, a career, or a calling. A job just pays the bills. A career is about climbing the ladder, seeking promotions and a higher salary. But a calling is different. A calling is work that is intrinsically rewarding. It's when what you do professionally fulfills you personally. It's when you feel you're contributing to something bigger than yourself. Finding your calling isn't about waiting for a lightning bolt of inspiration. It's about experimentation. It's about treating your own life as a design project. Try side projects. Take on new responsibilities. Be mindful of the moments when you feel most alive, most engaged, what psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi calls a state of flow. Keep a journal. Rate your days on a scale of 1 to 10. After a few weeks, look for patterns. What activities drive the number up? What drags it down? Start gravitating toward the things that energize you. But what if you want to bring this creative energy not just to your own life, but to your team or your entire organization? The authors show that building a creative culture requires a deliberate effort. It needs both air coverage from leadership and ground troops, passionate individuals willing to spark change from the bottom up. They tell the story of Intuit, the company behind QuickBooks and TurboTax. When their growth slowed, they asked a young design director named Karen Hansen to help reinvigorate their culture of innovation. She created a group called the Innovation Catalysts, a small team of design thinkers who acted as coaches, helping other teams apply a human-centered approach to their projects. They started small, looking for early wins. One of their first projects was SnapTax, a mobile app that lets you file your taxes by simply taking a photo of your W-2 form. It was a perfect example of what Intuit called design for delight. It was simple, it solved a real customer pain point, and it went beyond expectations. The success of projects like SnapTax was contagious. The original group of 9 catalysts grew to nearly 200, spreading creative confidence throughout the company. Intuit's customer loyalty scores went up, their revenues went up, and they landed on Forbes' list of the world's most innovative companies. Creating this kind of culture requires a safe space for ideas. It requires what the authors call karaoke confidence. Think about it. Most people are reluctant to sing solo in public. But in a karaoke bar, with a supportive crowd, even the most off-key singer gets applause for their enthusiasm. Why? Because the environment is built on a sense of humor, camaraderie, and a temporary deferral of judgment. A creative workplace needs that same spirit. Leaders need to be multipliers, not diminishers, people who amplify the intelligence and capabilities of their team, rather than shutting them down. The language of the organization matters. Instead of saying, "That will never work," creative teams ask, "How might we?" "How might we?" is a deceptively powerful phrase. How assumes a solution exists. Might gives you permission to think of wild ideas. And we makes it a shared, collaborative challenge. From the individual to the team, the message of creative confidence is consistent. It is a call to action. It is a reminder that we are all born creative. We are born with a natural curiosity and a willingness to experiment. Along the way, many of us lose that confidence. We learn to fear judgment. We learn to play it safe. But that creative spark is never truly extinguished. It's just waiting to be rekindled. The journey back is not about becoming someone you're not. It's about rediscovering who you've always been. It's about having the courage to take that first small step, and then another, and another. Bird by bird. Commentary. As we close the pages of Creative Confidence, what stays with me most is its profound sense of optimism. In a world that often feels constrained by rules, expectations, and the fear of getting it wrong, this book is a powerful declaration of human potential. It's a reminder that the world we live in, every object, every service, every system, is the result of a collection of design decisions made by someone. And the book's central, empowering question is, why shouldn't that someone be you? The story of the Kelley brothers themselves is a testament to this philosophy. This book was born out of a moment of crisis, after David's battle with cancer. It was a project they vowed to do together if he survived, a way to share what they had learned with the world. That origin story infuses the entire book with a deep sense of purpose. It's not just a collection of business strategies. It's a heartfelt guide to living a more engaged, more impactful, and more joyful life. What makes the book so effective is that it demystifies the creative process. It breaks it down into tangible, actionable steps. The idea that you can cure a lifelong phobia through guided mastery is a brilliant metaphor for overcoming our creative fears. We don't have to become fearless overnight. We just need to take one small, manageable step. Try one experiment. Build one rough prototype. Have one conversation with a customer. Each small success builds on the last, creating a powerful momentum that can transform not just a project, but our very identity. So, how can you start building your own creative confidence right now? Here are a few simple actions you can take today. First, start a bug list. For the next week, carry a small notebook or use an app on your phone. Whenever you encounter something that doesn't work well, a confusing website, a poorly designed door handle, a frustrating process at school, write it down. This simple act trains your brain to stop being a passive complainer and start being an active observer of opportunities for improvement. Almost every annoyance hides a design opportunity. Second, try the 30 circles exercise. Take a piece of paper and draw 30 empty circles. Set a timer for 3 minutes and try to turn as many of them as you can into recognizable objects: a sun, a cookie, a clock, a basketball. It's a simple warm-up that forces you to think quickly and divergently. It reminds you that the goal at the beginning is quantity of ideas, not quality. And third, the next time you're in a group brainstorming session, either for a school project or with friends, and someone offers an idea, resist the urge to critique it. Instead, try using the phrase, "yes," and build on their idea. Add to it. See where it takes you. This is the fundamental rule of improv comedy, and it's a powerful tool for collaborative creativity. It keeps the energy positive and the ideas flowing. In the end, this book is a call to reclaim a part of ourselves that many of us have left behind. It's an invitation to be more curious, more observant, and more willing to act on our ideas. As Steve Jobs, a close friend of David Kelley, famously said, "We are here to make a dent in the universe." That might sound like an impossibly grand ambition. But what creative confidence teaches us is that every dent, big or small, starts with a single courageous tap. It starts with the belief that you can make a difference, and the decision to try. That was a summary of Creative Confidence by Tom and David Kelley. We've covered the core principles today, but I'll be honest with you, no summary can truly capture the spirit of a book like this. The real magic happens when you read it for yourself. It's in the quiet moments when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with your own experience in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to be a starting point, to help you decide if this book is worth your time and attention. If anything we've discussed today has sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new techniques, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself and your potential. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's a small click for you, but it means the world to us and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing and creating together.